Hey everybody. Sorry. Guster's really, it's difficult to get a picture of Guster. Um, well, he's just very close to the camera. Well, welcome to Reading the Bible to Cats. Try and get a picture of him. There. Gussie, say hello to everyone. Okay, let's read Deuteronomy chapter 17. We have a close-up of Guster. A little blurry. Okay, sorry. I'm focusing on this very bad image of. Anyway, let's see if I can move him a little. Can you move? No. Okay, well, we'll try just filming like a super close up of Guster's eyeball. Guster, your nose is dirty. Okay, well, and you have fluff on your head. Oh, well. Okay, well, let me just read. Deuteronomy 17. Do not sacrifice to the Lord your God an ox or a sheep that has any defect or flaw in it, for that would be detestable to him. If a man or woman living among you in one of the towns the Lord gives you is found doing evil in the eyes of the Lord your God, in violation of his covenant, and contrary to my command, has worshipped other gods, bowing down to them, or to the sun, or the moon, or the stars in the sky, and this has been brought to your attention, then you must investigate it thoroughly. If it is true and it has been proved that this detestable thing has been done in Israel, take the man or woman who has done this evil deed to your city gate and stone that person to death. On the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses, a person is to be put to death, but no one is to be put to death on the testimony of only one witness. The hands of the witnesses must be the first in putting that person to death, and then the hands of all the people. You must purge the evil from among you. If cases come before your courts that are too difficult for you to judge, whether bloodshed, lawsuits, or assaults, take them to the place the Lord your God will choose. Go to the Levitical priests and to the judge who is in office at that time. Inquire of them, and they will give you the verdict. You must act according to the decisions they give you at the place the Lord will choose. Be careful to do everything they instruct you to do. Act according to whatever they teach you and the decisions they give you. Do not turn aside from what they tell you to the right or to the left. Anyone who shows contempt for the judge or for the priest who stands ministering there to the Lord your God is to be put to death. You must purge the evil from Israel. All the people will hear and be afraid and will not be contemptuous again. When you enter the land the Lord your God is giving you and have taken possession of it and settled in it, and you say, let us set a king over us like all the nations around us. Be sure to appoint over you a king the Lord your God chooses. He must be from among your fellow Israelites. Do not place a foreigner over you, one who is not an Israelite. The king, moreover, must not acquire great numbers of horses for himself or make the people return to Egypt to get more of them, for the Lord has told you, you are not to go back that way again. He must not take many wives, or his heart will be led astray. He must not accumulate large amounts of silver and gold. When he takes the throne of his kingdom, he is to write for himself on a scroll a copy of this law, taken from that of the Levitical priests. It is to be with him, and he is to read it all the days of his life, so that he may learn to revere the Lord his God and follow carefully to all the words of this law and these decrees, and not consider himself better than his fellow Israelites, and turn from the law to the right or to the left, then he and his descendants will reign a long time over his kingdom in Israel. Hey everyone, that's Deuteronomy 17, and yeah, just setting up really the government. I mean, this is where we get our Western system of law, and it's interesting. He was talking about kind of like contempt of court, but yeah, that it's, I guess you would say, that stoning episode is, God is like, you can't worship other gods, or because that leads to death, and but it reminds me of, in the New Testament again, when Jesus, when the scribes and Pharisees brought the adulterous woman to him, and I've mentioned this before, and they said, the law of Moses tells us, commands us that this adulterous woman should be stoned, and she was caught in the act. And so they were kind of entrapping Jesus to see what he would do. I'm sure they knew deep down that, how's he going to get out of this one? Because it's the law. And if he breaks that law, they can just rightly call him, accuse him of breaking the law. But Jesus, stoops down and writes something in the sand, and then says, "He who is without sin cast the first stone." I mean, each one of them dropped the rocks that they had in their hands and left. And then, Jesus says to the woman, I'm paraphrasing, but I think he said, "Does anyone condemn you?" And I think she says, "No." And he says, "Well, neither do I, go and sin no more." And that's, Jesus, the new covenant. He saves us from our sin, from death, and because of his sacrifice and mercy. But what was my point? Oh, I always wondered what he was, writing in the sand. And I've mentioned this in another video, but I heard someone in a sermon say that he thinks what he wrote in the sand, what he was writing in the sand, were the names of the women that, or maybe, yeah, the names of the women that the scribes and Pharisees had affairs with. And I'm sure if they saw that, or maybe he was writing down their sins, and they could see what he was writing. Who knows? That's speculation for sure, but I remember hearing that in a sermon. Anyway, yeah. Custer, you have a white speck on your nose, and I would really like to get that off your nose. Okay, you're going to try and get it off yourself. Yeah, you have some specks on. Can you get that white speck off your nose? Did you get it? No, it's still there. Can I get it? Can I get that off your nose? Will you let me? No. Sometimes if, Guster, sometimes he gets in a space where if you, he can get a little irritated and maybe a little bitey. So, Guster, I'd like to get that white speck off your nose. Would you mind getting it off? You're trying? Can I get it off? Can I get that off? No, it's not coming off. Okay, well, anyway, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You're beautiful. It might be a little booger. Okay. All right, well, let's say a prayer. Oh, man. Okay, let's say a prayer. Lord, thank you. Oh, don't go. Thank you for the new covenant, Lord, and oops. Thank you that in Jesus we have grace and mercy, and though he fulfills the law for us and is our righteousness. But I thank you for your word. I pray that you bless the hearing of your word, that my heart, sometimes it is hard to read the law, but I know we're under the law of Christ, which sums up the entire law, and Jesus is the fulfillment of the entire law. And through him, there's grace and mercy and forgiveness. But I pray for everyone listening and watching that you would bless them in a special way, Lord. And that if they feel condemned or, like they have too much stuff weighting them down and they feel, uncertain as to how you could ever love them, I pray that you communicate your love to them and that the love of Jesus would through your spirit speak to their hearts. Pray for Lord, the bridge, the Baltimore, the bridge that collapsed, and the victims, Lord, and the families and loved ones. I pray you comfort them and just pray for healing of their broken hearts. I pray also for the hostages, that you would miraculously recover them and free them. We pray for the peace of Israel and for the peace of Jerusalem, and pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Right, everybody. Well, Guster left, so he's actually hugging me right now. But oh well. So we'll end this now because there's no kitty. All right. Bye, everyone.